Right. Oh, I just noticed my camera's not on.
Oh yeah,
I don't know what's.
I noticed that too.
Oh, there we go.
I actually pinned Henrik because every time you talk, his screen would suddenly go black. I was like, wait, I was just looking at the board.
So yeah. So all right. So last time, Henrik, do you mind keeping notes on the editing the community triage thing?
No problem, we'll do that.
Cool.
So we're just going to go through them?
Well, actually, we had one. We have two left over from last time. Two held over on the community, the Puppet Dash community triage notes.
Okay.
So we had, it was PR 3219. This is the, the notes that you just put together. There were two issues on there that were held over.
Okay. Yeah, I don't have that up right now. But if you have that, so 3219.
Yeah. So this is it here. He pushed a new commit. It doesn't look like. Looks like there's an extra merge commit in there, and I'm not sure he did a force push. It looks like he just put it on top, so we'll probably have to collapse those down. This was expanding the SE Linux regex, so it wasn't as restrictive.
Okay.
Something we can just take ourselves and merge it. And since there's three of us, Kylo, is this something you can look at, or if you're gonna?
Sure.
All right.
I remember looking at this before. It looked pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
Other than oh, he never got back on. Okay, yeah. On the spaces thing or fixing up his commit. The author of this commit is root. Are we using? Did we ever just? Are we using GitHub assign?
We can, to us. It works for us that are.
Oh, right. It only works for us. Okay, don't let me bog you down with that. I just wasn't sure if that had changed in the last few weeks I've been at one of these.
But I mean, we could certainly do that. It helps. Like if.
Yeah, why don't you assign this one to? Let's assign this one to me. I'll do it.
Cool. Okay. And the next one is PR 3107. And this is still blocked on the missing retry, which I started working on, but I've been sidetracked with all of the other fun stuff.
Oh, it's still waiting.
Yeah. Yeah, we're waiting on specifically PUP 3379.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's still there. Okay, cool. So that was all of the things that we had held over from last time. So if we want to switch gears and go to Puppet Labs Puppet polls, we're looking at the oldest PRs. Unfortunately, Felix isn't here. That was his idea, so.
PR 2607.
All right. Seems like, I don't know. So we had the whole discussion about whether or not this should be in, if we want to take on these additional acceptance tests in Puppet Core. I don't see SSH key getting split out from Core.
Have you looked at the tests? I mean, do you think is there value add to them that couldn't be done as spec? I'm asking you total naivete. I haven't really looked through them.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Hi, Jeffrey.
Hey, Jeffrey. For this specific SSH key test, I think it would be good to have these tests because we've had some issues, especially with the comment field being optional, and I think we had maybe multi-line. Forget that. There have been a couple issues, and it would be nice to have some acceptance tests around them. I'm not sure if these acceptance tests would catch the problems that we've run into in the past.
Yeah, I guess it's actually two questions. One is the spec versus acceptance, and then the other is, yeah, I forgot there have been a couple issues like with the blank comment. I don't know if these that may be, I don't know if these tests were updated for that or catch that or not, because I feel like that was
I'm
recent-ish, but also bad with time.
Yeah, and these this commit is from May,
Right.
so I'm almost certain it doesn't. But it's because the SSH key stuff is a parsed file provider business, which makes me very scared. I think having acceptance tests would be a good thing.
But I mean, is there actually anything platform specific about them, or could it just be off fixtures?
It could. It's more of.
And I don't know where all the parsed file warts may lie. So maybe if there's platform specific warts in that somehow, then that might answer the question. But offhand, I would think it seems like it could be fixtures. Again, coming at this kind of naive.
I think it could if it was a normal provider. But the whole parse file thing is very crazy. It's there's a lot of magic involved, which is the part that scares me. I think it's entirely likely you can have the specs pass, but like something else is actually going on behind the scenes. All right. I mean, Charlie and Adrian are a little closer to that. They've worked on that quite a bit. It might be good to get their opinion.
Yeah, totally. And to be clear, I wasn't really advocating one way or another.
Mm-hmm. It's good to ask the question.
Yeah. Okay. And also, whether they've been updated or not for that recent issue is in some ways orthogonal to this PR.
Right.
Like probably what's relevant for this PR is vector acceptance. And if acceptance to the test, test what they say they're going to test. And then we could, and then the follow-on thing could be to add more. But it's a little unfair to say, oh, we discovered more after you submitted this PR.
Right. And that's something Eric T could improve on.
Totally.
Given that this, base, and then.
Hey,
Britt.
Hey.
All right. Well, it looks like Henrik captured our little dialogue there.
George just said ping Finch and
Charlie.
Yeah, Jeffrey, I have had some fun with mics as well, so I sympathize.
Yeah.
You said something about Eric T. and
Oh, just as a not really not specific to this PR, but as a follow-on, if this gets merged, and then we probably want to make some improvements to it based on the recent issues that we've had with the SSH key, and that could definitely be something Eric T could work on.
And do you know his tag?
Is that the right? I'm not sure.
E-Rock, I think.
Yeah.
Sorry?
That was the right one that you had. Yep.
All right.
E-Rock, maybe with a 0 for the...
Yes, it is.
I relied on meat space conversations.
Yep.
Good on this?
Yeah, it looks good to me.
Yeah.
And it's marked PL, but we mark it triage as well. Do we have it?
Yeah.
You can have multiple tags, or labels, can't you? Yeah.
Yes. No problem. Done.
Cool.
Better living with labels.
So actually, before we continue, Jeffrey, we're just going through the outstanding pull requests to the Puppet right now, just the Puppet project. Was there any issue in particular that you wanted to look at? I know we had talked about the Solaris types and providers, and possibly moving those out of core. Not yet. Okay. Yeah. Sounds good. Okay. So, Henrik, back to PR 2838. Yeah, sounds like we ping them once more. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Added a ping note and triage to it.
Okay.
Don't merge spike patch for auto-loading providers. Sounds like something we can
This
maybe...
actually, I think this is good for you to look at, Henrik, actually. This is about, right now the types will do a load all on the provider loader in order to find out the default provider, but they're not passing through the environment, the current environment, so you get you can have types and providers being loaded from different environments. And his patch actually looks pretty like, oh yeah, we were forgetting to do that, but that might be a good thing for you to take a look at.
Wait, so what environment do you get today? What environments providers do you get?
You get basically the nil environment, which I don't know how that is getting resolved in the autoloader. So if you call the autoloader and you say load all, and you don't specify the current environment, I don't know if internally the autoloader just assumes the none environment or the actual current environment.
Okay.
So we're not threading the current environment through all the way.
Right.
So it could be like, oh yeah, that we should obviously be doing that, or that could be, well, this only does, you know, a fraction of what's actually required to make this work. And I'm not entirely sure where in that spectrum it is.
So wait, load all takes a path and environment?
Load all takes a
Takes a path today.
yeah, and that's like a relative path, right? It's like type, exec, or no, it's like puppet/type, and it'll load all the types from that relative path.
Oh, I see. I was looking at the wrong load all initially.
Yeah, there's a class method, and then there's instance.
Yeah, exactly. I was just starting at the top and didn't know there were two.
Which is just awesome.
Yeah, it is. It's beautiful.
So, Henrik, is this something you can take a look at?
Sure. I was thinking of actually calling in Joshua Partlow since he,
Sure.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
being the expert and all and removing.
For environment stuff, yeah, especially because some of that stuff's peeling out. May not be affected by this at all, but
Yeah. Oh, he was down.
maybe.
Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
I was muttering out loud. What were you saying?
I was mumbling, so.
I'll match your mumbling with my muttering.
Yeah, and Charlie was also saying he's going to try to make it move forward as well. So, and we have stuff coming in with the removal and so yeah, Joshua Partlow, I think, perfect. Okay. Get it since he's like gone over it like 28 times.
Okay.
Do you guys see N. Hines' comment from September 28th? This lets providers load, but if the providers attempt to load in the utility code, it still fails.
So that surprises me because oh no, that doesn't surprise me because on the master we don't append to the load path when you're running Puppet Agent or Puppet Master. We only do that for any other application, which is what allows faces and that sort of thing to be loaded from modules. And we can't do it on the master because it could serve multiple environments at the same time. Right. So So if you can see my screen.
1 sec.
Oh.
Can you bump up font? Thanks.
So application, I think it is. Sorry. Oh. I'll bump it up as soon as I find the right.
Yeah.
So right now, can you see that okay?
1 sec. Yep.
This is the command line, the Puppet application that loads the Puppet library. And this is, this solves the basic problem of when you have module code that tries to load helper code within the same module. That you have to update the load path for any of that to work. And that's one of the fatal flaws in the autoloader. The autoloader can only load outer classes. If any of those outer classes do a require, and don't require relative to itself, then the autoloader won't find that code. And so that's why we do this. Why we do this business in the command line. But we can't do that for the master because the master is going to be serving up code from multiple environments at the same time. Right. So there's an outstanding ticket around, and so this, for example, shows up.
The agent might change environments, right?
Exactly, and that's why that is skipped. So there's an old ticket about, maybe it's that one, 2144. Basically, if you have a report, a custom report processor or a function that loads helper code, it has the same problem. Uh, 212.
Okay, so pop in the stack back to the comment that, the conversational stack back to the comment that Hines made.
I think the issue he's raising is basically a known issue that
this doesn't solve, that this wasn't intended to solve either.
Exactly, and that won't be solved until we have basically in Puppet server, when you have a single JRuby runtime serving only one environment, then you could update the load path for that single JRuby instance, and then all of the relative pathing, loading of code would work fine.
On the server, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Agents, no.
Agents, no, but we could. It seems like once you knew,
you could do a reload then.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Do agents load from their module, from their local module path, in addition to?
I'm not sure offhand. That's a good question. I mean, that's a good question, and just generally how the agent should address. And Heinz' comment is a good question as well. But
yeah, I think it actually does. It loads in mysterious ways, and it can end up with a mixture of what it got from remote and local stuff. Mm-hmm. This is from the sort of not being consistent on which environment is actually used and what's in it, kind of thing.
So
we did some improvements, and specifically for the environment on the agent, but I don't think it was exhaustive.
Back to this ticket. I mean, like, looking at the logic of it, it seems like it totally makes sense. I mean, sorry, the pull request. It's just given my only angst is side effects, even if there's side effects to perhaps emergent behavior. And I don't know of any. I'm just what do I want to say? Merely suspicion. But yeah, ping Josh P on it. He seems like absolutely the best person to opine on that.
Yeah, now this makes total sense. And if this breaks stuff, then other stuff is wrong.
Yeah. It's just a question of if we can anticipate some of that. If we can anticipate a particular breakage, it'd be nice to jump on that. But if not, if it passes the sniff test across the board, it definitely makes sense. So I lost track of which poll and which tab I was in. Are you adding a comment like that, Henrik?
Yeah, I asked Joshua Parker to take a look. Should I add it?
No, that's all I was thinking.
Okay.
Cool beans. Yeah, that'll be nice to get in. I know that's been a frequent pain point for some folks.
All right.
Okay.
Yep.
Next up is PR 2966. This is a docs change, but it's actually surprising behavior. It's saying that the path setting, only works in the main section, which could be an issue with all settings that use a hook. I don't know. I think somebody needs to just sit down and figure out what's going on with this.
Yeah, it's worth answering Nick's questions. And it may be that the answer is, it's settings and it's too wicked to fix, and we'd rather document. But it'd be at least be nice. We should know.
Yeah.
Also, is there any reason to believe that this is a regression as opposed to just day one-ish behavior?
It could very well be a regression.
I mean, do we know that it was introduced at some point, or is it just...
No, it kind of surprises me.
I don't know. Nothing in the settings surprises me, and there aren't that many hooks, so the combination of intersection of hooks and main could be... But there also have been changes to how settings work in recent times.
Again, it's Joshua Partlow.
Yeah.
I'll ping him and ask for his opinion.
I think that... just have a comment on Pub 3023. He has already looked at it from a few months ago. You look at the last comment on Pub 3023.
He did?
Oh.
What were you saying about 3023?
That Josh did look into this and has a comment there. which I'm rereading.
Hmm.
Notice a lot of the AC outlets in random places around the office are not wired up yet. But
All right.
Yeah, from his comments, that seems like that's that's known behavior, and probably does apply to all hooks. That's how I read that comment. Um, at least for the time being, like 4.0, if that's your guys' read as well, for the time being for 4.0, I'd be okay documenting that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm fine with documenting that. If it happens to work, or we make it work, or then.
I mean, there's a pretty easy workaround here, and it's it seems relatively painless. I mean, not ideal perhaps, but painless. So maybe keep 3023 open, and
Yeah, it's the only setting that uses that kind of hook, which is a little bizarre.
settings need a scrub for sure, because there's a couple of, I feel like I bumped into another one-off-ish thing, and I wanted to factor it out.
Yeah.
With respect to this ticket, do you think are you all okay with document?
Yeah, can just merge it. Okay.
So merge. I can press the green button.
Yay.
Yep. Well, that's good. I've scrolled past that poll a few times and wanted to have this 5-minute conversation and never got to it. So which one is up next? Oh yeah, thanks for doing the dog part too.
So PR 2976.
Yeah, the PR is still open. Henderson just pinged me and said that they're not trying to ignore the PMP stuff. They're just buried under the PE 371 release and support tickets. So
if we have an open question, should we just assign it to him in GitHub so that we remember that next time we scroll through?
sure. Assign the issue in GitHub, you said? Or the PR?
Yeah.
Sure.
To who?
And, oh wait, wrong ticket. Which window am I looking at?
Ticket I have, it's 3013.
It's pull 3013. Wait. Pull 3013. Not pub 3013, right?
Pull.
Oh no, never mind.
I mean,
Sorry.
It's all right.
I'm confused.
Someday
I'll shut up.
The stars will align and we'll get.
I had one that was just one off the other day. I almost thought about gaming the system so I could get perfect alignment.
Yeah. Yeah, assigned to Anderson Mills. Hey, Felix.
Hey, Felix. Bye, Felix.
My Hangout was misbehaving. Are we on 2976 now?
Yep.
And we said something about assigning PR to someone, and then
Anderson. Yep.
Anderson Mills.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
All right.
So the next one is 2992. And this is a change to the PMT skeleton that generates the gem file, which is also an Anderson question or yeah, so Henrik, I think we want to ping Anderson on this also. The one thing that concerns me about this change is that if someone has a Jenkins job, a CI job, and they're using that to configure which Puppet version they're using, then any new modules that they generate will have different behavior, because it will no longer specify that, but it's probably not a big deal. It's not like, a gem file change to Puppet itself.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Comment.
All right. Who knows anything about Pacman? Pacman packages.
Oh man, I thought we were on the game. Pac-Man's Arch, right?
Yeah, so Peter.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I think actually Peter's rotating in next week, so maybe we
Okay.
can just punt this down the road. Or maybe it's the week after. I can't remember when you're rolling off, Henry.
Yeah, I think this is my last. Yeah, this is the third time with Josh and 3 times with Rob, so that makes it 6. So
So it looks like there was a previous change that Peter merged to make Pac-Man provider group aware. And then, yeah, this looks like a follow-on to that issue. Yeah.
all right, we good on this?
Yeah.
It generally looks pretty good. Nothing that I could put my finger on and say, well, this looks funny to me at first glance.
Oh, I think Felix, were you talking about this one or the Pac-Man?
Are we no longer at Pac-Man?
No, okay. So yeah, we're gonna. So Peter's another platform engineer. He's gonna take over PR rotation after Henrik, and he has Arch Linux background. So we're gonna leave it for Peter to pick up.
Okay, which one is now?
Now we're at the PR 3019, adding acceptance tests for the Puppet module tool updates.
Okay.
Anderson again?
Yep.
PR 3023.
Yeah, I'm just updating the ticket on that one. Oh yeah, this is so this needs some fix up. I think it's a great thing to have. The problem now is when you run specs, we basically create a log destination in memory, and then you never see the results. So if you have something failing silently, it's hard to debug. So this adds an environment variable that if you set it will put all of the log results to a file. But right now, that code path assumes that you're running as root. It tries to chown the log file. And so we need some work to fix that up. That's either something David could do or something one of us could pick up.
Yeah, we need a ticket and for this, right? For this maintenance.
I think having a ticket would be good. I think it's a good thing to call out in the release notes, for example. It's a pretty helpful feature for developers.
That shown operation you mentioned is not obvious in the patch, right?
Yeah, it's just that's currently what the file log destination does. So as soon as you try to use it, it'll try and make that call.
So sorry, Josh, were you thinking that we should fix that logic so that it can be non-root, or just clean this up so this doesn't get activated unless you are root?
I was thinking that we only try to chown if we are root. Like, it doesn't make sense to try to do that if we're not, really. Specifically trying to chown to the Puppet user and group. Because normally in the normal code path, we don't want any sensitive data to go into that log and then be.
Yeah, right.
Which, yeah, we could either move the chown call out to the caller of whoever normally uses that log file. Like when you're running as WebRick, for example, I think it sets up a file-based log destination. So we could either just skip the chown call if not root, or move the call that does the chown to outside. Or we could do nothing and just live with the errors that get generated. But I think that it's confusing because it looks like it's,
yeah, And running as not root, running specs as not root is probably typical.
Yeah, pretty sure the specs don't work if you run as root on some platforms. So,
Windows.
Yeah.
And scary.
But then,
actually, they do work correctly on Windows.
As the user root?
Well, as the administrator, actually, if you're running with privileges, which is how we typically, that's what we do in CI. Jenkins runs as a local system. But yeah, there's no root call. But Puppet has a switch. Puppet features root ? Maps to the, either UID 0 on POSIX or running with privileges on Windows.
Oh, hey guys, I gotta roll. Have fun, but not too much fun.
Yeah.
Always.
All right. Bye, Kyla.
see ya.
Yeah. So, Henrik, do you want to add a note to ping David? Yep. Okay, next one is PR 3025. This is more module tool changes for Anderson.
All right, that's it, right?
Yep. Okay, next one, PR 3033. Don't ignore status when using Upstart provider. Is this? Custom target. To point. Does anyone have experience with Upstart and can comment about this PR?
Know nothing about what it is.
Britt or Felix or Jeffrey?
All I know is that it's pretty ugly.
I'm pulling
Which
up
is
the
not-
commit right now.
So what do we do with this? None of us seem to know much about how it's supposed to work.
Yeah, it's a good. times. I'm pinging some people in the Puppet Core channel about that. Okay.
So House seems to have made the most changes to Upstart.
Yeah. So why don't we just leave the comment like that and continue? All right. This seems like something that could be handled in a integration level test. Not sure that we need an acceptance test for it.
Doesn't it need like a repo set up and you know what you're testing against? Or anything like that?
I'm not sure. I think you can specify. I mean, you can give it whatever directory you want. Maybe not. I don't know if it lets you specify the target. Like, it just requires that that file exists. You know, that goes.d is a directory. And it may be that yum repo doesn't let you override that, which then might be hard to do in an integration test. I don't know. Oh no, because it's going to just create a file in that directory, right? Yeah, but still, like if you're not root, then you can't. That won't work, right?
And do we want this on, I mean, Windows?
No. This is only Yum platforms. So it has the test is confined to those
Okay.
platforms.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, there is a target parameter on Yum repo, on the Yum repo type. So you could do all of this in a test, in a spec or an integration test, which I'm actually surprised we don't. Yeah,
So would that be generally preferable?
yeah, just because they're much quicker to run. Like every acceptance test that we add adds a lot of overhead.
Okay.
But it's sometimes that's the only way to test things that involve agents talking to masters and that sort of thing.
Sure.
I
Josh, did you want some comment to say something about what you said about the
Oh,
target and stuff?
yeah, the yum repo type has a target parameter. So you could, basically run a Puppet apply with this catalog and just add the target parameter and make sure that the right files get created. And then use a fixture to compare it to.
All right.
Yep. Okay, next one, PR 3038. So there's no test.
Also no sufficient commit message. Missing tag, no explanation.
Huh. The Debian service provider needs some work. That, not in this PR, just in general. It's referencing a bug 2538 in the old Redmine as a if it includes get start link count.
I'm a little uncomfortable with the fact that now the code 101 and 105 are just handled as though they were identical. It sort of feels as though each should have its own branch to do something specific, but that might be completely wrong also.
Yeah, and can you also ping House and Adrian?
It was the 101 he added, right? I wrote, is
Yep.
the end. All right. Done?
Yep. Okay, next one, 3039.
And so notes it's PMT.
Yeah. All right, so next one, PR 3043. This, I don't think Trevor has gotten back on this one.
Okay, we have removed 187.
Progress. Yeah, but the global cache is still.
There's another way of there's another approach now that Puppet Pops is standard that can be used if caching is needed. For instance, if you want to associate something with the environment's life cycle, you can use the adapter pattern because the adapters hook onto something and they insert an instance variable that is named after the adapter so that they don't clash with others. But you can do that from the outside, that you can keep the cache in there, and then when the environment times out, it will, of course, also drop the cache that is associated with it. So I use that to, for instance, have things that are cached on the environment and also cached on the compiler.
Can you, when the environment times out, do you have an opportunity to do something?
To clean up? No.
Yeah. Okay.
Because you can bind stuff in there, right? So you hold a reference to something, and then it just times out, and everything gets garbage collected. So we don't have like finalizers or anything.
Okay.
But you in general, you can work around that, so you don't have to like deregister or anything.
Mm-hmm.
Might leave some garbage someplace else. Stick it in a temp file. What? Something.
Yeah. Okay.
And for what it's worth, I think it's acceptable if the apply case does not use ideal caching. I mean, each apply is a process of its own, and it's to be expected that there is some more overhead when compared to regular master operation.
Yeah.
But wait, isn't this agent side caching? Are we sure that we can leverage the environments for this?
Well, it has an environment too. I was just saying this is a special case, right? He wants to not visit the mounts on each run. So if and I mean, you could just have that written to a file instead.
Yeah. But that's quite some complexity right there, because usually you would expect the agent to work with whatever is really the current state of the system. And a caching layer that is controlled by some outside resource, such as a file, potentially confusing. But then so is caching right in the agent process, I think.
Is this cache only visible to the Linux code itself, or is it visible outside?
You are roboting pretty badly.
Am I robo?
Yes.
Okay. Is that better?
No.
All right, I'll be back.
Okay, so in this case, I have a greater concern after all, because I mean, masterless is one thing, but there's a lot of people who use cron instead of a persistent agent process, and for them this would do nothing, right?
That would do nothing, yes. Because it wouldn't start with a clean slate every time anyway.
Yeah, I mean, then it doesn't hurt.
Yeah.
Can still do it. Yeah.
Can you guys hear me now?
Robo. I think we should switch to blue jeans. Hangout is just getting worse and worse.
But is it Hangouts, or is it something with the microphone?
No, it's Hangouts audio driver.
Okay.
There was an update like a month or two ago, and then everyone started. It used to be Andy was Robo. Then all of us started to be Robo. I can't use my nice microphone, for instance. It just stopped working. It sucks more and more CPU, and it crashes, and then audio goes weird. Everything works fine in Blue Jeans, for instance. So. Anyway. All right, so this PR, what should we do?
Perhaps close it for the time until Trevor has a chance to look at it again.
Can you hear me now?
Say again?
My Robo.
Yeah.
Your Robo and ultra quiet. Have you tried switching to the microphone on your laptop instead?
Not yet. I was gonna have my little headphones plugged into the external microphone port.
Yeah. I think the audio driver has problems with USB.
Yeah.
Now you're not Robo, but I don't think we can hear you.
Yeah. For what it's worth, I cannot see the chat either because I'm on Android. My browser wouldn't let me connect today. So yeah, +1 on Hangouts being a pain sometimes.
Felix, were you saying that you were dubious about having this at all with a cache time to hit the mount points because you really do need to look at the current state?
No, not at all. I mean, if this is really so helpful for people on systems where this lookup is expensive, then I mean, does the user have some sort of control over this?
Not really. It's just
I mean, that's what makes me a little uncomfortable.
yeah, I agree about that.
But then we'd likely have to add a configuration option, which we are generally loath to do, as I understand.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
I know from experience that this kind of problem is a little difficult to solve because we have really no way to allow the user to specify this kind of thing in the manifest, because at the time that resources are fetched by providers, you really don't have any chance to look at the catalog.
Yeah.
So either we hardcode this, such as Trevor has done now, I think, or there's a configuration file option. Complexity.
Yeah, or if there's a way to just check if your cache is invalid by a much cheaper check to see if anything has changed with respect of mounts, and that is available somehow.
Yeah, good point. I mean, that doesn't. For example, I think Linux has a etc mtab or some such. Oh, it's a symlink. Great.
Yeah, and this has been since October 15th, and no comment. Should we close it?
I think it would be appropriate to give the usual 1 week warning and then go ahead. I think the idea is pretty sound, but we should take it to the dev list to see if someone has an idea how to do this in a fashion that will not cause surprises for users down the line.
Right, I'm going to let the user be, what is it?
This is
Perry and
Trevor.
Trevor. Perry and all right. We happy with the notes?
Yeah, it looks good.
Cell phone.
All right. Looks like we have like 4 more or so to go before we run into.
Sounds good.
All right, let's press on.
So PR 3045. So right now, when Puppet makes an LDAP SSL connection, it doesn't allow you to specify where the CA certs are loaded from, which apparently Solaris doesn't use the default CA certs bundle. I'm guessing. I don't know why. why it would be a special case like that.
Yeah, that's.
I don't even know if I've never actually used this code before. Anyone?
No. I mean, it's probably for the LDAP providers, yes. Anyway, shouldn't Puppet try and automatically do the right thing on Solaris instead?
So right now, Puppet doesn't, it only knows about its one CA cert. You know, it will use that when it's configuring HTTP connections. But we have the same problem with the Forge on some platforms, even on Solaris, where the root cert isn't, isn't installed by default. Yeah. This seems like the agent should have the capability to specify. Administrator should be able to configure what CA certs the agent trusts.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like if there was a way to manage that and not rely on the state of that system and hope that Forge connections work or that LDAP connections work.
Okay, so you're saying this should not be specific to LDAP, but should be a general way to specify a trusted certificate location?
That's what I'm thinking. It seems like that would be a more general way to solve this. The one challenge with that is as soon as you allow that to be, like if you have a directory or you have a single file that you append all the PEM files to, now you need to make sure that that file doesn't get modified by a non-root user. Like in his PR, he's not setting the permissions on that directory, which we probably would want to do. Otherwise, non-root user could put in whatever they want.
I mean, I'm in my right to run an agent as non-root and have all the trusted certificates in my home somewhere. Oh yeah, so
Yes.
the permissions are set. Yeah, that's a good idea. Sure.
Yeah, in Puppet, like if you have an owner or group specified on the setting, we only try to manage that if you are running as root.
Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But it seems to me like for the time the contributor could get away with just renaming the option to something more general, but using it only for LDAP for the time being. So
Mm-hmm.
that the broader support can be added at a later point in time.
Yeah, and also, yeah, that's a good point. And also, I would add to that, since he contributed this, I think we added all of the different type of settings. So this is a setting that we would want to be a directory setting, and it should probably have a default value that is something meaningful under the SSL directory.
But that would be a breaking change, I think, because then you would have agents start and actually use that to build LLAP connections.
His change as he's proposed? Or are you saying if that was a more general?
Well, oops, am I still there?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Android is weird. So the currently, if the setting is left at its default of false, get the old behavior. But I think if we define a default, then this default will start to get used by agents all over the place. We do this update. I mean, the next agent will be 4, so this is a good time as any to introduce this kind of breaking change.
Right.
You should just be aware of it.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
Can we have different defaults on different platforms?
We could. We do that now for some settings, like diff. For example, diffs are enabled on platforms that have a diff command. I was thinking, Henrik, that this particular setting should be either a directory setting or a file setting specifically, depending upon if we want a directory of PEM files or a single file that contains multiple certs. Probably having a directory would be easier to manage.
You call that sort of file. It's more,
Also a PEM file, it would just be, they would be concatenated together. Yeah. So then you could just ensure absent or ensure present for individual files. Mm-hmm.
Should we allow the option to take both? Or either?
well, they could have a PEM file in there that is a concatenation of PEM files and manage that as a single thing if they wanted.
Mm-hmm.
Right? If it's a directory, it's open-ended. If it doesn't matter to us what's in the PEM files.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Oh no, right. I think it's got to be a directory because it's passed right to the LDAP binding.
I wouldn't be surprised if there were options to do a to basically set individual files on there. Not unlike an OpenSSL, you can either give it a CA file or you can give it a CA directory. It may just be that that constructor requires a directory, but there's probably another method on there that will allow you to set individual files or like add individual CA certs.
Or perhaps the constructor is even clever that way.
Yeah, yes. I wouldn't be surprised.
All right.
All right.
Just waiting for author to respond to all our thoughts.
Yeah, sounds good. Looks like Felix dropped off.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's quite a lot in there. I think it's just highlighting the fact that this is a problem in Puppet, and we keep running into it in different ways, but it's the same thing.
Yeah.
All right, so we're almost
there.
Almost there.
Can I quickly interject before I have to run?
Yeah.
I opened a work in progress PR. Pretty late.
Which one was that?
3321.
Yeah. So it lacks proper testing, but perhaps I can get some early feedback. That would be great. So this is about one of those dev threads we had a couple weeks ago. We'd like to make Puppet apply behave just like the agent when an ENC is used, which is to say if the ENC specifies an environment for the node, then that should take priority over whatever the user specifies. And the change is pretty large, but that's just because I did some indentation fixing. So it's likely best to view the commits each in its own right.
Mm-hmm.
So the first commit use proper manifest with Puppet apply and DNC. That's the actual change.
So how does, when you run Puppet apply, you give it the absolute path to the manifest, right?
Yes.
So how does the ENC affect that? I haven't, to be honest, I haven't followed the thread.
No, that's right. Actually, now that you mention it, I'm not sure that this commit message is accurate. Perhaps I should revisit that. The issue is that the ENC will supply an environment, and apply works by manipulating the environment that is configured.
Mm-hmm.
And the manifest that is given on the command line is being inserted or overrides the actual site manifest from the environment.
Okay. And you still could have types and providers or modules in an environment. So you want to make sure when you run Puppet apply that plugin sync gets the right environment, and that the manifest refers to resources that are available in the ENC's specified environment?
Absolutely. Especially to the masterless people, this could be a security concern.
Yep. And so now what happens? It basically, in the old behavior, we just look up the current environment. Oh, so we always use, so the ENC has no way of influencing what environment the apply is performed in?
Yeah, no, I think the bug that I found was that the opposite is true. The ENC will choose an environment, and whatever is the site manifest for that environment gets applied. So the actual manifest that you want to apply is ignored in this case.
Okay.
So to fix it, the lookup in the ENC is done earlier.
Mm-hmm.
And if that returns an environment, that will be considered to be the environment that is of interest, rather than whatever is configured.
Mm-hmm. So this does mean that you lose the ability on the Puppet apply side to be authoritative about your environment?
Yes.
If you have an ENC, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this was a sort of a weak consensus on the list that this is probably a good idea. I mean, the opinions were a bit scattered, but I'm going with this right now.
Mm-hmm.
No one really opposed.
Yeah, I mentioned that because we had just internally, we had a lot of the professional services people who didn't like that the ENC was always authoritative, and I think that they added something that allows you to opt out of that behavior, so that if you still wanted that, so what I think might be possible is even with your change, I think it might be possible to still get the behavior where apply is authoritative, even.
Well, you can turn off the ENC, right?
Yeah.
That thing. So, I mean, either you're in control on the command line anyway.
Yeah, but this is probably not practical for all users. I mean, the ENC does other things besides specifying environments.
Mm-hmm.
Although then I'm not really sure if this is of consequence to the typical apply case, because sure that the classes that the ENC picks are of no consequence because you wouldn't want them in an apply run, and well, variables, those could be important.
Yeah. But it's more for hacking and testing out and changing on top of what the ENC said. Really.
What I'm doing right here?
No, I'm just thinking out loud. Why? I mean, if you have an ENC, the whole idea is that provides the stuff you need when you're running, right? So why do you need to do stuff, and when do you need to do that? Well, that is when something's wrong, and you're trying to figure out what's wrong and what happens if and stuff like that, and you're running apply on the command line and you need this special stuff. Isn't that the case?
I guess. So many use cases, I think. I mean,
Well,
I can conceivably see someone having an environment, say, experimental stuff, which he really doesn't trust, but he needs to try and see, perhaps in no-op mode, what will this do on a production node. but he can't because the ENC will always mandate that the production environment be used. That was pretty unfortunate.
Yeah.
So, hey, can we just, Josh, if you find any write-up or any ticket with respect to this new stuff that you just mentioned about choosing whether the ENC is authoritative and add it as a node to the PR, then I'll look that up.
Okay, we'll do that.
Okay, great.
Okay, we have Josh. Do you want? We're out of time in 1 minute, but we have 2 tickets before we hit what we have triaged earlier. Should we just take a quick look since we're here?
Yep. Yeah, let's do it.
So 3061.
Oh no. Wow.
I seem to remember some males on the list back then.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd paste the link to the thread, but no chat. Yeah.
Yeah, let's ping Dominic again. I don't have much context on SE Linux. Though it is interesting, he's in the set SE Linux domain call, he's splitting on colons, which is similar to the behavior that the other PR that relaxed the what could appear in those things.
Yeah.
To be so, at least those are consistent.
Do we have anything more to say? Then ping Dominic.
Yeah, I don't really.
All right. And final, add RDoc dependency in gem file. Which
With failing tests from Jeff.
Amazing. So for one thing, aren't we removing active record and all that?
yeah, we're going to. We haven't.
But not yet. Okay. And Henrik, weren't you saying things about RDoc in general that we were removing?
We are going to remove it completely.
Okay.
We have removed RDoc1.
Mm-hmm.
Since we dropped Ruby 187, RDoc1 support is gone.
Okay.
And now we only have RDoc because we currently do not generate documentation for everything with the Puppet Strings tool. As soon as we do, we will drop all RDoc stuff from Puppet.
Okay.
And I don't know if, since we're going in that direction, any work or any complexity or any follow-up problems on this is throwing work in the wrong direction.
Mm-hmm.
I'll add the general comments.
So
Yeah.
will Puppet 4 retain any RDoc support?
Yes, we have to. We will not have a Puppet Strings that replaces all what the Puppet RDoc does.
Yeah. And I think Jeff has a point that this should.
Yeah, it's hard because it's EL7, right? So it's kind of a big, because people don't know about our without development extra business, which is what we do, which is why we don't see this. We could just confine that gem thing to be platform Ruby. So we don't have Windows problems and we don't have JRuby problems. And I don't know, maybe we skip it on 1.8 like we do Robocop, Rubocop. Oh no, I mean in the gem file itself. Like if we were to accept this patch to the gem file, we could just restrict the gem to only be installed on Ruby platforms and possibly only when Ruby version is 1.9 or is not 1.8. But we actually don't support 1.8 anymore, so maybe we don't do that.
Sounds good to me.
What do we mean by Ruby platforms?
Oh, sorry, only on Ruby platforms. So in the PR, in the diff, you'll see it. We confine certain gems to only be installed on certain platforms. So Ruby will do everything but Windows, which is great.
Ah, okay.
And then there's JRuby, so we could do something like that. So at least we restrict the scope of possible breakages by adding this. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a good compromise. Like,
Right.
all right. All right.
That's
Is that a wrap?
a wrap, I think. Just checking.
All right. So next time we can.
Oh, there's one more. Added value method for auto in sync.
Oh yes. Oh.
Okay, so debatable. Ishamo Eric Shamo said -1. Finn says things about tests.
Yeah.
And metaprogramming, and people are unhappy.
Hmm.
All right.
I'm gonna need to think about this one.
Yeah, that's not a great pick for, let's do this 7 minutes overtime. We can
Yeah,
something
held
like
over
that.
to next triage meeting.
Yeah. Good. All right.
Okay.
All right. I gotta get going. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Have a nice day.
Yeah. You too.
Bye-bye.
You have a nice night, Henrik.